every single one of my team know that they've got a year to automate 80% of their jobs or they're not part of the team. People think that AI will get rid of their jobs. Not using it in my world. They should be an AI electrician annexed onto everybody's job roles because it's there anyway. I always say what's worse than someone having a bad experience with a VA is where someone's had a great experience with a VA and has lost them. They put 6 months worth of energy and effort doing it their way, the shadowing and everything, and there's nothing documented. And they then feel, I've got to do that all over again. And they shut down. Iron Man's one of my favorites, right? And I love the Iron Man suit, want more myself. AI systems, it's like building an amazing Iron Man suit. It gives you the what, the how, it can do all kinds of cool stuff, but without Tony Stark, it's nothing. And then how those decisions can come out can save the world. Now, Tony Stark by himself is still pretty cool, but not as powerful without the systems and the AI. So what they say, there's a lot of trades in business, not a lot of business in trades. Yeah. They're not taught this, right? But then they get their first tech because they go, I'm getting too busy. They work together, that's great. Then they split. Now they've got to try and run someone and they're like trying to find that mini-me and they end up with micromanagement and they realize they made more profit and had more time when they were working by themselves.
Absolutely.
And that is the key of why I got in. There's 3 words, value or death. If this blind spot isn't addressed in the first month, will cause the biggest issues in delegation or when you start working with remote teams. There are 3 things.
We are here at the Connect podcast. This is episode 28, and today is going to be a very interesting one, especially for the trade businesses. With us today, we have James Russell from TradieVA, and TradieVA is an outsourcing VA company that's done all the heavy lifting for you. They've designed the systems, they've designed the SOPs, they've designed how to create the freedom for trade businesses and other businesses through their VAs. Now, there's a lot that we're going to be getting through in this conversation. I'm excited to jump straight into this one. Welcome, James. Thank you for coming on.
So good to be here. And as you know, we've been having some good laughs, you and me on the phone. So it's nice to finally be able to share it with everyone else.
Absolutely.
So let's get into it.
James, there's a lot to your story. I want to start from the beginning. Now, where does this all start? Because there's a lot to get into with TradieVA and all the magic over there. But where does your journey start from?
Well, I got to say, it started as an aerospace engineer and that failed miserably pretty quick. I did that in uni and my professor said, you're an 80-20 guy. That means you do a great job creating efficient airplanes, but they're going to land 80% of the time. People aren't going to love that. Maybe you want to find a different career option. So I actually moved into logistics and started into process consulting, but I actually ran a furniture moving business, a removalist for 15 years. And I realized we'd done up to 150,000 moves.
Yeah, wow.
Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Canberra, Adelaide, Perth, and London.
Yep.
Most of those places I set up without even going there. So what I realized was my actual zone of genius was running remote teams and quality control at a distance. So that's where I started to focus my time. By the time I sold my moving business in 2019, there was only 2 teams in Australia. The rest was being run out of our office in the Philippines. And I'd already been getting asked for multiple years, because we worked in commercial relocations with a lot of trades.
Yep.
And they kept asking me, oh, James, can we get one of those Marys? One of those? I'm like, dude, they don't come off the shelf like a drill. Yep. But yes, we can help you build your business so you can be able to do that too.
Yeah.
And so I started to help them out, started to get them some team and talent and teach them how to work with them. Because most of these guys have been doing it themselves, So I had to teach them how to let go. In 2022, because of the frustration I saw in them letting go, I completely restructured how we did it so that it was more my way or the highway.
Yep.
And completely just solve the issues that specifically trades have in being able to delegate, let go, and scale.
Okay. So this is the admin side. This is the back end stuff.
This is, to be honest, it's anything. It's the back end stuff, but they couldn't let go of a lot of stuff.
Yep.
Often this happened even on the field.
Yep.
Right. This was with their teams, but the admin was the first thing that if we could at least break the seal there, we realized that at that point, the door's open for them to be able to do it with the rest of their business as well.
Yep, absolutely. I was mentioning before that I know a lot of tradies in business that are incredible tradies on the tools, but are really shit business owners.
Yeah, they say there's a lot of trades in business and a lot of business in trades.
Yeah. And that's a sad thing because you can see the ripple effect it leaves on their mindset, on their mental health, on their families, on their employees, on their teams, and the amount of hours that they put into something.
They're not taught this, right? It's not. Yeah. It's I hate to say it's not someone's fault because it's always your responsibility and accountability. But as they go through that journey, and this is what I found, they go through that journey from apprentice through to, being the tech, then going, hey, I don't like to be told what to do. I want to go do my own thing. They do their own thing. They kind of realize then they want to be told what to do, by the way. But then they get their first tech because they go, I'm getting too busy. They work together. That's great. Then they split. Now they've got to try and run someone, and they're like trying to find that mini me, right? And they end up with micromanagement, and they realize they made more profit and had more time when they were working by themselves.
Absolutely.
And that is the key of why I got in. There's 3 words: value death. It's that moment that, and I'm sure you've seen it so many times too, where a trade, whether it's, again, builders, trades, they all get into this space. They need to make a choice. Is their best life stepping back and going back to working by themselves as a sole trader and enjoying that? And you can make good money and live your best life that way, or you take a step. But if you stay in that spot, that's where your mental, emotional health, your family, and everything starts breaking down.
And that value death, that spot, what is that? That's after being stepping out of a sole trader?
This is after we're setting out a sole trader. You're getting someone, usually it's the 2 to 3 team mark.
Yep.
Depending on the business type. Sometimes it's 2 to 3, sometimes it's 3 to 5.
Yep.
Right? But it's at that point where you are trying to step from operator to owner. You don't know how to let go. And it's because, I'm sure you were the same when you started, right? It is that most trades get into it because they're a problem solver of some type. That's what they love, right? They're a problem solver. The problem is whatever it is they go out to fix. They go out to a house, they diagnose it, and then they fix. That's the problem. Now, the problem is the value of death. The problem changes. Now, the problem is no longer the toilet's been broken or the electricity's down. The problem is, and the opportunity now is, they've got this talent, this young talent, who they're in control of how their future goes and that leader that person could become if they solve that problem. But every time that apprentice or that VA or the admin or whatever you want comes to them with a question and they answer it, they're not solving that problem.
Yep.
And that's the letting go piece.
They're doing them a disservice, aren't they, if they're giving them the answer?
And it's something you can know hypothetically.
Yeah.
But it's a mindset shift because they're still so attached to that initial problem solving that their identity is attached to that problem solving.
Mm.
And they need to learn that they can have their identity attached to a new problem and still have that spark, that joy that they had when they started.
Mate, I can resonate a lot with this. I stepped off the tools a long time ago, but it was probably the biggest shift I've ever had in mindset, and biggest shift I've ever had to make. And the fear of letting go was a big lesson of mine. And in that lesson, I told myself that if I want to, and this was a conscious decision made after months and months and months of researching and thinking about it and just doing my own head in about it, if I want to step into the next level and step into the ideology of scale and what that looks like, I have to be able to let go. I have to be okay with letting go. Now, I had to give myself a few little hacks along the way and a few mindset little kicks here and there. And one of them was like, no one's ever going to do it. If I noticed, I kept telling myself the story, no one's ever going to do it as good as me.
Yep.
I know that well and truly. But I can't let go if I'm going to keep running that story for myself. So I told myself if someone does it as 80% as good as me or 70% as good as me and I get 100% of my time back, then I can use 100% of that time on sales or building the team or building where our vision is going to be heading towards.
Because you had a good enough why, then you could start to let that go.
And it did take me a while, and I did try and have these conversations with a lot of tradies. And I noticed that a lot of them just aren't sold by the idea of it, and they're quick to jump in to say, well, how can you let the customer down like that? I don't think they're seeing the bigger picture, because it's ironic because the customer is actually going to end up getting let down anyway if you're not building a company.
And this is where the questions come in, right? So I often get that, right? People go, oh, but what about this? And I go, okay, so how many emails are inbox? Oh, they're like, and they laugh, 9,768. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna do a search, and I've done this, by the way. I think it's probably been around 4 to 5 million emails that I've looked at over the years, right? And we do a search looking for a few phrases. These days with AI, it's hilarious. We can have some good fun with this.
Yeah.
One is, where is my ...
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So how many customers are asking you, where is my ... Other one, how many times do you say sorry for the delay in response? And I look through and I search up and I go, do you want to talk to me about letting a customer down now? And they see, and some of these guys have been in business for 20 years using the same email.
Yeah.
There are thousands, not hundreds, thousands of emails just like that. And I say, okay, so are you really worried about the standard of your work and your customer experience going down? Because I'm telling you what, it's here anyway. Where do you think the stigma comes from? You know, the trade's being late, the trade's not getting back to you with quotes. It's just a reality, and it's what they're not seeing. It's a blind spot.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. This is good, and I'm actually excited to rip into this because there's already a lot of value that I feel a lot of people in the trade industry can grab out of this. Now, tell me, what is TradieVA? What's the mammoth of the operation? What's it look like? What's the concept of it? I've personally worked with it. I was absolutely thrown away about how structured everything was and the concept of how it all works, but I want to hear it from you.
Well, let's make it real simple. A VA agency is a recruiter. They go out, find someone, Harry meets Sally, Sally meet Harry, good luck, right? That's the middle. Where TradieVA steps in, we teach the client how to put it down, we teach the talent how to pick it up, and then we put it together. So yes, structurally, we're an agency. We've got, I think, 220 talent globally, Philippines, Colombia, Venezuela, Mexico, that are serving clients across Australia, New Zealand, US, Canada, again, trades and construction, trades and builders. So yes, there's amazing talent. And yes, it's about us creating a great culture for them to exist. I'd say that's around 30% of our value. Because I say with that, trades will get about 30% of the capacity and all the frustration because they'll start letting go. And again, it'll just spend more time micromanaging because they haven't learned how to do it right. So I'd say the main thing, and people go, oh, so you train all the talent. I'm like, yes, we do. There is that side. We've got mentors who understand the software. We've got, training programs and all kinds of stuff for the talent. But the secret is they ain't the problem. The talent's great. The issue is, again, teaching the clients, teaching the builders, teaching even their team as well, how to let go and putting things into place, infrastructure, because a lot of these guys, they haven't even had anything remote. They may have had an admin in their office. The only training they've ever done is shadowing, right? And so with literally getting some absolute basics sometimes set up here, like huddles in the morning, team meetings, chat, how they, I'd say one of the most basic things is how do you get information from your techs on site back to your office so that you can invoice, quote, and do everything you need to do? What does that look like? How do you make that easy? You've got trades out there with 15 vans and they're chasing every one of those 15 guys for their hours and their photos and their things every day.
Yeah, it's disgusting. Right? Yeah.
And so it's setting up that, because without that structure, that talent's destined to fail, right? And so that's the business. Going in, downloading the brains, right? Because everything's between here, because most of these guys either don't have any documented systems on it, and if they are, they're irrelevant to us anyway, and they definitely haven't got them ready to delegate. Mm-hmm. So that's the idea, and it's about getting them up to speed. So our TradieVA promise is around downloading your brain, getting it documented so that if within a couple of months, if that talent did win the lottery, we could get someone else up and running in 2 to 3 weeks. Yep. You need to build an asset. We're trying to let them let go, but they can only let go if there's an asset in the business, right? Otherwise, they're just buying a job.
Yep. And where do you feel the resistance is when you have tradies jump on board, give it a crack, and then feel a bit of
the resistance can be a couple of ways. Sometimes it's because they've let it go quite too long. They're already running 60, 80-hour weeks. They're so desperate. They're almost it's the silver bullet resistance. They think they can flick a switch, do nothing, and someone comes in and magically knows everything inside their brain and can do everything perfect, or that they can, again, hire that mini-me, which is a fallacy. And by the way, you don't want them anyway.
Yeah.
Right? So that's part of it, is that it's not a lot of investment, the time. I'm talking about, not talking about the money, the time, but it is very specific. And so you need the teachability. You can't pour water into a full cup. So if anybody comes going, yeah, I've already got my SOPs, I've already got it, and I can go, well, how's that working out for you? And I'm like, well, they're like, we're still working 80 hours. So are you willing to forget that? And if they aren't, it's very hard to work with them. So that mindset's the first thing. The second thing is that how are they going to, what about my reputation? What about this? And that's where we've got to, again, show them it's the same as the talent, the safety of what we call the 10-80-10 principle, which is 10% of good data in, 80% that the talent can do, 10% of good feedback loop on the way out. To be able to create that safety and security in that moment, in that training moment, which is, again, it's not long, but it's very important, right? Let's call it 4 to 8 weeks to get them completely up to speed. But if you stuff that part up, you either get a robot because you've shut them down so many times, they've done so many things wrong. Why would they show initiative, right? So that's that period of the moment. So yeah, the resistance you get is that sometimes you get some standard, what about, I hate call centers. So they go, which is the standard. Well, yes, because when you call a call center and they don't have the answer and they provide no value, you hate them, right? So we've got to be able to create a roadmap for how they let go, which is a very important part.
Do you feel, and this is something I noticed, do you feel like now businesses, especially, not especially trades, but trades in particular, are starting to play more in the VA space with on the phone scheduling and emails? I know there's a lot of white collar industries that use VAs.
Oh yeah.
But
it's definitely getting more, which is fantastic. I definitely don't, there's definitely a lot less conversations and resistance around getting remote team, especially since COVID.
Why do you think that is? Yes. Well, that's where I was going to lead.
COVID, forced that idea into many people. And also the more, it's one of those things is it's keeping up with the Joneses. The more people get one, the more people are okay getting one. Right. And so when people start to see others having a good experience, then they go, that's fantastic, right? Sometimes they don't understand what it took to have that good experience. They think it's just about they got the right person. But yeah, that part of the resistance isn't there. I think it's just ends up being once they've had a bad experience. Well, actually, there's two. I always say what's worse than someone having a bad experience with a VA is where someone's had a great experience with a VA and has lost them. And then, but they put 6 months worth of energy and effort doing it their way, the shadowing and everything, and there's nothing documented. And they then feel, I got to do that all over again, and they shut down. And that's often when people fly straight back to that sole trader. Because they just cannot face retraining. And that is, again, the biggest problem we want to avoid. If you, as soon as someone becomes irreplaceable, replace them. That risk is going to keep you up at night. If they leave tomorrow, how are you going to feel? What are you going to do?
It's a key person risk, right? As soon as there's a heavy part of the business really run by one person, you're left in a pretty vulnerable position.
That's it. And I'm not saying you don't want to find good people.
Yeah, of course.
And you want to treat people like they're going to be there forever, but you want to assume they're going to be gone tomorrow.
All
right. And I think that's where it comes into our systems, right? For that brain, downloading the brain that is all about not wasting a minute.
Yeah, absolutely. Mate, what cultural blind spots do you think Australian business owners have when they first hire offshore?
I think one of the biggest cultural blinds, and now I guess the first thing I want to mention is offshore isn't necessarily what everybody thinks is in the Philippines. Offshore for us, like I said, is global now. It could be anywhere. There's once someone's remote, they could be in, Parramatta, or they could be in the Philippines, or it could be in Turkey, right? But considering the time zones and the English as a first language and everything else, let's stick to the Philippines for the moment because there is a couple of specific cultural blind spots. Hundreds of years of oppression from 3 different countries, Portuguese, Spanish, and Americans. We call it the cars, right? There are 3 things that if this blind spot isn't addressed in the first month will cause the biggest issues in delegation or when you start working with remote teams. Challenges, achievements, and recommendations. So because of that, especially the Americans, to be fair, because of the oppression there, there's this immediate power imbalance. And you'll notice between Australians and the Philippines as a cultural difference, challenges, admitting what is a problem for them. Now, Australians don't mind whinging.
Yeah,
they're all a bunch of whingers, right?
I know that. Yeah.
So, which is again the negative of that is again everything's difficult and everything's not their job. The benefit of it is if you know someone's challenge, you can address it and help them fix it, right?
Yes.
The next one is celebrating achievements. So maybe it's because of the Catholic environment in the Philippines. There's a lot of reasons, but celebrating what they're really good at and coming to that is not natural. So again, this is something that you have to put in a habit of bringing together as part of your culture in the first month. And if you do it, you bridge that gap, that cultural blind spot. If you fail to do it, you completely break the relationship for the rest and you may as well give up and get someone else. The last one is recommendations. And this is where people get confused with initiative versus recommendations. I'll talk about initiative in a moment, but recommendations is literally them saying something you're doing is wrong and there is a better way. Australians have an opinion even if they shouldn't. Everyone's got one, right? Over there, again, the way they look at it is you're the boss. You probably should have it right. So therefore, if I tell you that there's a better way, I'm telling you you're wrong and I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. So again, if you every day put as part of your communications protocol that these are safe things to do, admitting challenges is amazing, failure is just lessons, etc. That you celebrate their achievements and you find out what they're good at and you give them time to be able to sink into it and you actually systemize them providing recommendations about what could be better. Right? And admitting all your failures. The more you communicate and about everything you're doing wrong, the better. Right? You do those three, you'll bridge that gap, but that is the blind spot.
Okay. And once that gap is bridged, what does that world look like with a VA?
So that is where what I would say the word initiative, right? Which is not a personality trait, contrary to belief. Initiative is the product of safety, structure, and objectives. So if someone's got some kind of safety and of structure, of objectives of what they can operate in, some boundaries, then initiative will thrive like that, right? So that's where having some of this psychological safety comes in. So once you bridge that gap, and there's a couple of other things you need to do as well, right? Which I know that we'd really like to get into some SOP stuff in a minute, but then what you'll see is you start to delegate decision makers, not doers, right? Which is what you actually need to do if you want to be a leader. And, you don't want people just doing stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Because then they're going to get stuck and they come back to you, right?
They need to feel qualified to make the decision first.
Oh, and authority.
Yeah.
Right? And they need to know what that decision's in aid of, right?
And if you had to be brutally honest, what do Australian teams outperform Filipino teams? And the other way around. I want to hear the other way around.
I'll tell you what, tomorrow they're not going to be rewiring your house remotely, although watch this space, the humanoid robotics.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
It's happening, and I'll be there. But for the moment, that's tough. But in all seriousness, because of that what I mentioned about that cultural gap, you'll find that out of the box, trust-based selling. So anything where there's ad hoc trust-based selling and someone needs to challenge clients directly. So where there is someone's calling in, you've got to have these front-end client relationships where it's completely ad hoc, right? Especially in a sales environment, which actually requires quite a lot of challenging in that kind of space. So what I tend to say is these teams are not there to replace your local team. They're there to make them stronger. Right? So find what their zone of genius of your people in your team are, service, whether they're service managers, whether they are, sales, whether they're out there running the teams, right? But it is, you really want to make sure that it needs boots on the ground. I have seen companies start to drop their boots on the ground, right? When they start to, get these remote teams, and it's a cost saving measure. Whereas what they really should be doing is enhancing that wow factor of the boots on the ground,
Okay.
right? Do that,
Mhm.
and that's where it really sits. On the flip side, because of, again, you are with the Filipino teams, you're paying them more than doctors half the time. So these guys have worked 5-10 years to be in this role. This is what they want. This is their dream state of where they're at, is work ethic, resilience, teamwork, their ability to work as a team, right? And consistency of delivery. So in these structured environments, not fighting structure, right? But thriving in it. That's kind of where you're going to find that the Filipino aspects are going to be stronger versus where you want ad hoc.
Yeah.
Right? You want highly you actually want highly reactive, right? Sales is actually a highly reactive environment.
Yes.
Whereas most other things aren't.
And do you feel like VAs are just by nature highly reactive when they're taught well? Well, I guess it comes down to.
Well, that's actually the other way around. So it's about, Australians will thrive can sometimes thrive in psychologically unsafe environments. It's almost like that the cortisol or the stress levels create a certain amount of endorphins and stuff.
Yep.
That doesn't happen as easily in Filipino cultures. They, in fact, all the way through school in the Philippines, they never get told to stand up in front. As part of the curriculum, they never have to stand up in front of the class and do anything by themselves.
Interesting.
It's either a team-based exercise or it's submitted.
That's interesting.
Right? And once I learnt that, I kind of realized that there's a cultural imperative around having time to prepare and do things or working as a team, right? And so this very individualistic approach is something that is rarer or has to be given a lot of safety and boundaries.
Yeah. Well,
right.
All right, Mr. SOP King, let's dive into SOPs. Before we get into SOPs, to the people who don't know what SOPs are, system operating procedures.
Standardized operating procedures.
Standardized. I always get it next time.
Right,
standardized. You can pop that out. But anyway, yes, that's what it is. Now, SOP King, James, take us through. Now, what makes a good SOP? And I've so many follow-up questions. Do you want me to spit them at you now?
No, I'll tell you what. I'm gonna spoil it a little bit and be a bit controversial.
Go for it.
Which is SOPs are actually killing 98% of businesses right now.
Okay, that takes out all my questions. Let's go into that.
So there's a couple of things, right? Is SOPs, the way most people approach them, is the thing that's preventing their scalability and letting go. The reason why is chefs are writing recipe books. Every time you write a SOP, which is going into the how and the what, you're taking away the why. What you're doing is you're not actually delegating decision makers. If you as a business owner start writing out your SOPs, again, that this is how I do it this way, right? As soon as someone hits a snag in that SOP, because that's, by the way, SOPs are never going to be perfect anyway. And in 2026, with AI and everything, the standard operating procedure today is not standard tomorrow, so it's therefore no longer standard. In fact, I would put out there that the word SOP doesn't even exist. There is no standard because it lasts a minute. But not only that, is you can have a 27-page SOP with how to do it. You could replace it with a 1-page handover document that had the why, which we call the PASS framework. A 1-page document, the why, and it'll be delegated faster and more effectively than any SOP ever would. Now, again, like I said, it's a bit of a controversial statement that SOPs will kill your business. SOPs that are created by the person who is handing that over is what kills the business. Now, an SOP that is dynamic and is created and run by the person who is taking that over and owned, that's slightly different. That's more of we now call them just-in-time knowledge bases, right? And with AI, this is more about being able to have information when you need it, how you need it, right? To be able to make decisions in the way. But what you want to be doing is getting the decisions handed over. So yes, with SOPs, if the idea is, because one of the biggest sticking points, and in fact, you asked before, what's some of the resistance you get from letting go? One of the most common resistances I have of why people haven't got a VA or got anything is I just need to get my system sorted first. My systems aren't good enough. When I get my ops manual done, it's never going to be done, A. And when it is, it'll be defunct. And let's say you're using ServiceMate, right? And you've got a 27-page SOP with screenshots and you want to move to Simpro tomorrow. How do you feel? Pretty shit, right?
I feel like crying.
That's it. You feel like crying, right? And so you want to
stick to it.
That's it. You just don't. Even if it might be better for your business, you just wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
So therefore, and that hence I say killing your business, because the world's evolving. Those with SOPs won't evolve because they are just like that tradie was stuck his identity on solving that original problem. That tradie's now stuck his identity on the 30 hours he spent writing that SOP. So he won't evolve because he invested too much time and energy into that. So that's why with our system, the idea is we want to spend as little time as possible, as little investment with the most amount of context, so you can let go and be agile.
So what does that look like?
So the PASS framework's pretty simple. It's one page, right? And it's a little bit like with an SOP, it's a little bit like AI. Are you a Marvel fan?
Sorta.
I'm a bit of a superhero fan, big fan. Iron Man's one of my favorites, right? And I love the Iron Man suit. I want one myself. AI systems, it's like building an amazing Iron Man suit. It gives you the what, the how, it can do all kinds of cool stuff, but without Tony Stark, it's nothing. Tony Stark, having the human there and the why, the decisions behind it, and then how those decisions can come out can save the world. Now, Tony Stark by himself is still pretty cool, but not as powerful without the systems and the AI. But let's take it back to the why. So that one-page handover, and again, we call it the PASS, came from a bit of a joke where, I just say to everybody, stop giving hospital pass to your talent. You're throwing them this task, bound to fail, because you've given some default kind of system. They're going to run into a hiccup on the first email they have to answer, right? So the PASS framework is you need to have purpose, the why. Why does that job exist? What is the outcome they need to achieve, right? When you're doing something, they need to absolutely have what it is that is the definition of done. And then what are the standards that need to be done, right? So again, all you're doing is creating a small, nothing about this is the how yet.
Yeah.
The how is so unimportant. If you're using ServiceMate or Simpro, that shit's available on YouTube. What they want to understand is what the outcome is. So if someone understands exactly, let's say, for example, I was talking to and this can be with anything. Okay, this isn't just with an SOP around, I don't know, doing your email or sending out an invoice. You think about when you go and do a plumbing job, right? And you go, okay, you might say, oh, you need to fix this pipe, fix that pipe, fix that pipe. But you actually haven't asked the client, what is the outcome you want to achieve? And they say, you know what? My mother-in-law is coming over on Thursday. She needs to be able to take a shit. Now, he can go through all these things and say, he did all those, but at the end of the day,
did we achieve the mother-in-law?
The toilet doesn't work.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, but I followed this SOP. Now, or you could just give, by Thursday, mother-in-law needs to take a shit. And none of that. And they'll still perform better.
Really?
Because they'll be able to make it's what is the thing that I need to learn, do, break through in order to achieve that outcome. So rather than having a talent come to you and go, hey boss, I got to hear, what do you mean by this? They come to you and go, oh, hey, I've got to this part. Again, because the system's not perfect, because it never will be. I've got to this part. Look, in order to achieve that outcome, I figured there's a couple of options we could do, maybe this or this. I think this one, what do you reckon? What kind of talent do you want? You want the second one, right? How much nicer does that feel when someone comes and goes, hey boss, I've done X, I'm working on Y, unless you've got something important, as opposed to, I've done this, what do you want me to do next? Because they don't know the outcome. One page handover that can take you 5 minutes, one document, one page handover, 5 minutes, just going through the why, the impact of if I do it well or if I do it badly. What are the definition of done, the things that need to be done to make it move over there, the gift, right? And essentially, then the resources they might need. That's it. You don't need much else when you're passing over a task, and no one does it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Very interesting. And it will probably it would take a lot for people to understand that, especially if they've put in the hours in the SOPs. And so it's a bit of a hard pill to swallow. Now, I played around with the idea of finding some sort of an LLM and dropping all our SOPs into it. We haven't done it yet. But do you think that's also another alternative?
So that's all we do at the moment, right?
Yeah.
So just from I said about the past, because that's the one thing that the client really needs to do, right? Is what's the outcome? But the other part that what I did mention was it's the context. So yes, that's the outcome, but there's a whole bunch of stuff that you do. And again, the way you make this decisions, which is really important. So all we do is we plug in a bit. We've got a custom piece of software, but there's a couple of other things you can use off the shelf, like Komodo, where you're just recording what you're doing as you're doing it. Now, there's a big difference between recording some how-to guide. This is how we would do an invoice, to actually recording 5 versions of you doing an invoice, where you're gonna. There's multiple variables.
Of course.
Nothing's ever this, stuff comes, you go, there's humans, right? And they don't send you the work order that actually has any of the stuff, and you got to deal with it and you got to call them back. So recording what you do as you do it, again, do not waste time. Do not waste time recording how-to guides, because you can do something else. Just record as you do what you do, add that to the past document. If you put that, again, and the talent can do that, not you. The talent that you get, they should be throwing that into an LLM, right? And going, great, here's the purpose. Here's a whole bunch there's 10 different videos, now create an SOP. If you throw one video in, it'll have a linear ... You can imagine a workflow, right? Of
course.
Step 1, step 2, which is horseshit. Doesn't happen in real life. There's if this, if that, throw 10 videos in, and that happens. Now, our system does that automatically. The reason why we've got our system is, again, going back to the why. So I want to get this really clear is people often start with a task, so in entering invoices. But what is the objective of the whole role of that person? So we have a cascading effect where someone comes into our business, we'll ask them, what's the problems? What do they need to solve? That'll create the outcomes of the role. The outcomes of the role, then we'll ask, what tasks, if done well, make success in that role inevitable? Take those tasks, we say, record yourself doing that shit, pass those along with the past document to your talent. Now it's in their shoes to go, hey, Patrick, I've got this as my outcome. I can see that there's this task. I think I need to know this in order to get that outcome. Can you help me? It's a bit easier than you have to try and figure it out. So it's this cascade effect of, AI is amazing. And again, it's that Iron Man suit. But if the Tony Stark's not in there and knows what to do with it, it's useless. Or it's going to be dangerous, in fact. But AI, we can go on the whole thing of how AI is going to be, we've just started building whole open claw bots that can go and set up best practice Simpro environments, right? Like, again, but it's based on context and purpose. Right.
Let's touch on AI, because I know you're very passionate and obsessed about AI.
Which people think is weird in my game. They're like, isn't AI going to replace your people?
Oh man, what do you mean?
It's like, God. So backwards. Anyway.
Yeah. So
you ask questions.
So how can trade businesses or business owners in general incorporate AI if they know nothing about it? Everyone's obviously on ChatGPT, they play around with it, but that's very, very surface level.
It is surface level. Look,
what are easy things that people can bring into, and what can then sort of be a next step?
Well, I think the first thing you got to get over is remove out of your vocabulary, I don't know. And remove out of the vocabulary of your team, I don't know. It no longer exists. Knowledge is cheap, right? Everyone should be coming to you with, I've thrown it in. This is what I've found. I think this is the way I should do something with that. What do you reckon? That should be the bare minimum of the standard that you need to accept of your team.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right? There is no longer an I don't know. It doesn't exist. Right? It's barely existed since Google, but now it doesn't even exist. So first, setting your standard about how your team communicates and utilizes AI. Every single one of your team, including your techs out in the field, they should be an AI electrician, right? It should be annexed onto everybody's job roles because it's there anyway. Just start to use it in some capacity. I would suggest, so there's a bit of a ladder of AI, right? Like you said,
Mm.
start off with that ChatGPT, just asking for advice and ideating, let's call it. Agentic AI is that next one. So agentic, we're talking, this is where stuff is actually, you're creating bots to do things for you. So one is answering questions, standard ChatGPT stuff, base level. Next is something like Manus, where again, it looks like ChatGPT, but it is, you install it as a Chrome extension and it can start building out and actually going and doing tasks for you. You can teach it. It could be going in and going to your email, grabbing a invoice, entering it into Simpro if you wanted it to, right? Yeah, absolutely. So you can create your own. It's not really an app. It's just, it's an agent. It's called agentic AI. It's an agent doing something that you've taught it how to do in your browser, right? You can just go and do it real time.
And they do it automatically.
Yeah. You just tell them what you need it to do, give it your logins and done. Check out Manus.
Yeah. How do you spell Manus?
Manus.
Okay.
It's probably the easiest one. Again,
Sure.
Who knows? In a month, I'll tell you something different.
Yeah.
Right. Well, a month ago, it was Manus that we were playing with mostly. Now it's OpenClaw. But for anybody in trades, let's start with that to start figuring out what it is that you can get it to do for you. But I would, like I said, with most people, I'd just be saying, have it up. And every time you go, I don't know how to do that, scrap it out of your brain and ask.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not hard.
And I just heard 17 people listening to your podcast going, yeah, but I wouldn't know what to do with Manus.
Yeah. Well, fuck.
Ask it.
Yeah.
Hey, I've just started up Manus. I'm an electrician. What can I do? Like, it's literally taking that question out allows you to move to the next step.
Yep.
And I think that's the first thing that in the trade industry we need to start looking at, and then start again, same way you would do it with any of your tasks, start looking at how you can buy back your time. Often that's when it comes to having a VA is make it part of their role. To like every single one of my team know that they've got a year to automate 80% of their jobs or they're not part of the team.
Okay.
It's part of their role to automate their jobs. If they're irreplaceable and they're not using it to automate so they can step up into better things, people think that AI will get rid of their jobs. Not using it, in my world, gets rid of your job.
Yeah.
Right?
A question that's come up for me in the past, and I've asked a few business owners this, and it's one I find some people struggle with. Where do you think the line is drawn between being a supportive leader and becoming too emotionally entangled with your team? Sort of bridging the gap between a leader and a friend. Because in your personal life, I'd like to say you're a friendly guy. You can like to be buddy-buddy. You can have good conversations with random people, I would assume. And then when you're in the business world, you have teams under you that have to meet KPIs. They have to run and do what they're supposed to be doing. Their job description has to be followed because then essentially the business starts to go down. How do you feel that gap can be bridged?
Well, it's actually interesting. It's actually personally, this is actually one of the reasons that I started getting into systems in the first place, is that I struggled with these interpersonal relationships and whether it be hiring, firing people, doing that. And so I started getting into systems so I could have something else to blame. I could look and go, hey, it's not, my hands are tired. It's as you can see. As that developed, it became more about, and again, it comes up so much in everything I talk about, which is when you have a problem with talent, it's only one of three things: clarity, motivation, or capability. Unless they're dead, which is the only thing that probably doesn't come under those three.
Yeah.
Right. By far, the thing that will assist you in these boundaries is that first one. The last 5 people who I've had to let themselves go, self-selected. Why? Because all I've had to do is ask the question. So when it comes to, like we were talking about SOPs and KPIs, it's like if they create the KPI based on their objective, and then you say, okay, what standards would you need to adhere to on a day-to-day basis? I mean, I know we're talking about 75 hard and, daily non-negotiables. What non-negotiable standards do you think you would need to adhere to in order to hit those KPIs?
Yep.
Then you can have a conversation at the end of the month and again, feel into what a performance review looks like when it's, hey, just checking what your KPIs that you created, how are they going?
Yep.
Oh, they're not being done. Oh, okay. And so you'd created these standards. Have you been adhering to the standards? Now, if the answer is yes, you go, oh, great. It's a coaching opportunity to change the standards. If the answer is no, it's like, do you think that that's now cause for concern? Yeah. So do you think it's be fair to say if we gave it a month for you to be able to adhere to those standards, that would be fair? Again, then most of the time when I have people at the end of the month go, hey, they'll message me a day before the end of the month and say, hey, thank you so much for the opportunity. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to do this. And I'll go, fantastic. I'll help you find a better job.
Yeah.
Because remember the problem we're trying to solve here when we're getting these team in our business. We're not selecting these guys. These aren't Muppets. These aren't robots. These are human beings that if they don't fit here, and I've got them, I always offer my team at all times. If it's not a fit, I'm going to help you find a better job than you are in now. Now, what kind of friend do you think you're no longer a friend? That's a friend.
Yeah.
You're already being a friend. And so I don't think there's a line. I feel like it's clarity. You break that line, you break that problem when you're vague. It's the vagueness. It's when people get a shock that they've been let go. And this happens with VA relationships too. If someone is shocked by getting in trouble, that's a leadership problem.
Okay.
Not a talent problem.
Yep. Okay, so it takes me into my next question. How do you hold them accountable to following the systems, and what sort of consequences are there when they don't get followed?
And look, this is a really interesting one. And this comes a little bit back to the buy-in thing, right? Which is the idea of clarity, right? So again, there's been a problem that you've brought someone to your business for a reason. Otherwise, you just take the profit, right?
Yeah.
So you're investing in someone in order to buy back time, get consistent, some reason. That should be outrageously clear. Now, the first thing I always say is if I asked any of your team right now, do you know how to win today? That's the first question. You cannot hold anybody accountable if they don't know how to win. And I'm out of asking 300 or 400 companies that for the first time, I could count on my hands and toes the ones that would say yes to everyone in their team, knowing today I know that everyone would know exactly how to win.
Yeah, interesting.
So that's the first thing. Once they absolutely have clarity, then you can, again, you then be able to start asking the question. Let's say they've got 3 objectives that are clear. You can say on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being you're nailing it consistently, 1 being you haven't started learning, where do you think you sit, right? 7. Great. What's the biggest bottleneck? What's the next step? If you're both on the same page, there's no problem. If they think they're a 7, you think they're a 3, easy. What's the gap, right? Now, again, you've got clear KPIs. They've set clear standards. And when I say standards, I mean, what are the things that if done consistently would make success in their KPIs inevitable?
Yep.
Right? Which that's the easiest way to hold accountability, because then you're saying to them, okay, you're accountable to that KPI and that objective. What do you feel you need to know, do, resources you need to unlock? Because your job as a leader is to provide what they need in order to succeed. That's your job, right? Leaders create leaders. You need to be able to enable them. So therefore you ask the question, what is it you need? But your job is not to tell them what to do.
Yep.
In fact, it's the last thing you should be telling them to do is what to do.
Well,
they say you can tell someone why and what, or you can tell them how, but you can't tell them both. So if they ask, hey, how do I do this? Even then, I don't know if you have anybody, read Dan Martell's Buy Back Your Time and use the 1-3-1 principle. What's the one problem you're trying to solve? 3 options. And what's the one you think you should do and why?
Yep.
Hand it back, but provide them the support. You can go one way or the other. You say accountability, where it's actually you have completely abdicated responsibility and you're not helpful. In fact, it's just cruel. I'm holding you accountable. It's like, no, you're not. You're being a dick. You haven't given them any outcomes and any support. You need to make sure that they understand clarity. You need to make sure that they're motivated.
Yep.
Are their KPIs tied to their rewards? Are you celebrating those achievements, or are you holding them accountable to something that's not even their job? Right? So clarity, motivation, and the capability is there might be an innate, but are you giving them the resources they need?
Yep.
And it's, again, accountability should never be a surprise. Yes, I have meetings, but I call them coaching sessions. I don't call them performance reviews. They're coaching sessions of which I can coach someone into a better job.
Yep.
But they're not I'm not reviewing their performance. It's not, hey, I'm not marking a test.
Yeah.
They mark their own test, right? We should be singing off the same hymn sheet.
Yeah.
So I think it all comes back to clarity.
I love how deep we went into this. And the beautiful thing about it is that this is perfect and can be deployed across any team member, regardless of if they're offshore or if they're in the team.
This is what people keep coming to me. Oh, what do we do with the VA? I'm like, well, they're not, even the term virtual assistant or admin, that's not a job. Like, what is the job admin anyway? It's like, no, it's not. Like, their objectives are communications, compliance, finance. They've got a role here, people.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
Same. So does your electrician, right?
Yeah.
You know, he's out there. His job could be, his objectives are about, his what do you call it? Effectiveness, profitability. It could be NPS and client satisfaction. It could be sales conversion rate and upselling. Who knows? Whatever it is, right? That's his job.
Yeah.
He's not a Sparky.
Yeah. James, what does I'm going to go.
Yes, go straight there.
Yeah, well, look, we're coming to about time, and I can talk about this forever, and I know you can with your ADHD. So what does a day in James Russell's life look like? Or what does a week in James Russell's life look like?
Well, I'll tell you what, now that I've got an EA, it's only 5 minutes of emails.
Yeah.
So I actually, my week's pretty much pre-structured.
Yeah.
So I call it's the perfect week. It gets pre-structured. I time block.
How does that go? ADHD and time blocking? Because I tried that before and it didn't work out with me, but I know for other people.
I delegated I completely own, my EA, Juno.
Yep.
She owns my calendar and my email. I don't. I'm not allowed to book anything in my calendar. Anything. I can send her a voice memo and say, hey, I'm just with this guy. Can you book him in priority 2? Yep. And she'll go, cool. I'll find the next available slot.
Yep.
She controls I don't touch any email when it comes in my inbox first. She does. Should we then sync? So I have a 15 minutes, half an hour sync with her. We call it GSD, get shit done, in the morning, where she has my brain organized. So I brain dump throughout the day, whatever I'm doing. And I tell trades and construction the same thing. Voice, give context.
Yeah.
I jump on my Google Spaces and I just press the little speak button and brain dump.
Yeah.
My EA then takes that, consolidates it, and then in our GSD session the next day, we go through whatever I need to do. I spend as much time as I can coaching my team.
Yep.
Right. So Mondays afternoons is coaching, creating coursework, content, working with AI, whatever I can do to make more value. Right. Which is what, as business owners, we should be doing, is creating the value.
Yeah.
Or creating the value in our team's lives.
Yeah.
That's it. And I guess, and I don't, except for coming here and having some fun on Fridays, I don't really work Fridays.
Yeah.
Except we have our big all-family huddle in the mornings where there's 150 people show up and we celebrate achievements and do all that.
Yeah.
And, otherwise I'm trying to travel around and have fun, do what I love doing.
Alrighty, mate. Wrapping up the episode, I'm going to ask... Well, actually, before I wrap up the episode, did you want to mention anything else? Did you want to... I think this podcast went into the right sections and the right...
No, it's exactly what it is. Look, the thing is it's much simpler, right? Letting go is actually simple. It's just not obvious.
Yeah.
And I think the more you think about it, the more problem you're going to have. I think the thing is you just need to get in and realize that you can start letting go tomorrow, and that should be your number one goal.
Yeah.
A business where you're the single point sensitive is always only ever going to be a job. So just start downloading that brain, start letting go of something, right? And it's actually simpler than you think. And definitely don't wait until you get it all systemized.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Mate, one last question. We're going to wrap up the episode, and we wrap up every episode with this one last question. If you were to take out 3 people to a dinner night, and these 3 people could be anyone in the history of humankind and present day, whether you know them or not, who would those 3 people be and why?
Oh, fantastic question. Look, right on the tip of my mind is Dan Martell right now, just because of what he's doing in the AI space and just the whole principles. I think he's just that energy. I would love to then have him crossed with, I'm thinking Dalai Lama. I'm thinking I need some spiritual energy there. I think I need some of that depth of the why. I'm always going to personally put Jesus in there because I just figured, just hit the idea of, that other focus of always thinking about the other. I think there's something that needs to be there. And got to put in someone who's just absolute chaos. So let's put in, actually, I want an inventor. I want to go with someone who's just had to make a gazillion light bulbs. He's up on your wall. Where is he? We're going to go with, sorry, just mental blank.
Is it Tesla?
No, light bulb, dude.
Light bulb.
No,
look, I'm a good electrician. I don't know too much.
Yeah.
Somewhere over there.
Yeah. I could work with. I need someone who's failed, like a lot, lots and lots and lots.
It's funny. It's on the tip of my tongue as well, and I can't even find it either.
You hate this when you're on it, but inventor of the light bulb. People are going to absolutely laugh at me.
Edison.
Thank you.
Far out. That was hard. That was unnecessary hard.
Especially because you're the electrician. You get to fail that more than me, right? Yeah, there we are. Edison.
Yeah.
Edison, Dalai Lama / or Jesus, maybe one of the two, and Dan Martell.
Yeah. Nice.
For dinner. Let's have some fun.
Yeah. James, thank you very much, my friend. This was an incredible podcast.
Mate, awesome fun. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Let's do it again.
Alrighty, guys. Thank you for listening in. This was one hell of a podcast, a whole heap of value, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.
See ya.
Alrighty.